Alors, we continue today with our Zohar from the parasha Mishpatim. So it's Mishpatim, verse 556, and it talks about a special mitzvah. Rabbi Abba said, what is written before this verse? The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring to the house of Hashem your Elohim. You shall not boil a kid in its mother milk. Exodus 34:26. He asks, what is it trying to imply with these words? So he answers, do not mix a lower matter with an upper. The outside should not nurse from an inner. What is the difference between them? The outer, meaning the kid, represents the aspect of uncleanness, while the inner, meaning its mother, represents holiness. Who is its mother? It is a congregation of Israel, Malchut, which is sovereignty, or this applies to some deeper level of study. So I'm going to skip. So he says, its mother milk means that those who are not supposed to must not suckle from that side. So it tells us that one cannot mix the two spiritual substances. It is a law. It is a chok. Chok in Hebrew is a law that there is no logical explanation. That, in our case, is the prohibition to cook the kid in its mother's milk. Talking about kashrut, this is also the root of the kashrut in Judaism, but there is no logical explanation about it. Here are the three places where this interdiction about cooking milk and goat together is mentioned. First of all, in Exodus 23:18-19. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until morning. The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat, gdi, in Hebrew is gdi, in its mother's milk. So of course here the leaven represents sins, so there cannot be communion between pure and impure. The second passage is Exodus 34:25-26. I'm not going to explain all of the passages, I'm just quoting them. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, nor shall the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover be left until morning. The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring to the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat, gdi, in its mother's milk. Third passage, Deuteronomy 14:21. You shall not eat anything that dies of itself. You may give it to the alien who is within your gates, that he may eat it, or you may sell it to a foreigner. For you as a holy people to the Lord your God, you shall not boil a young goat, gdi, in its mother's milk. So without entering all the details, we can see here that the Torah associates the unity of the people before God with the feast and with idolatry and food. So there is an obvious link between the physical and the spiritual, and Yeshua himself spoke about the food of his body and of his blood. Then after he said that his words were spirit. But milk is more than this. Milk symbolizes the Torah. 1 Peter 2:1-2 it says, therefore, laying aside all malice, all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and all evil speaking, as newborn babes, desire the pure milk of the word, that you may grow thereby. So while the Torah is the milk, the kid, goat, is a symbol for Esav, the brothers of Jacob. If you remember, Yaakov had covered his hands with goat skin to look like his brother. In Genesis 27:15, it says, then Rivka took the choice clothes of her elder son Isaf, which were with her in the house, and put them on Yaakov, her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats, Gdaye Aizim, on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. Then she gave the savory food and the bread and so on. So Esav is also called a goat. We read in Genesis 27:11, and Yaakov said to Rivka, his mother, look, Esav, my brother, is a hairy man, Sa'ir, and I'm a smooth-skinned man. The word hairy man, Sa'ir, means goat. In Genesis 37, we see with the story of Joseph and his brothers. And they took Joseph's vest and slaughtered a back of the goats, Izim, Seir Izim, and dipped the vest in the blood. So it means hairy, it means goat, it reminds Esav, but it also means demons. In Leviticus 17:7 we can read, "They shall no more offer their sacrifices to demons, Seirim," in plural. Sair is goat, like D and everything. Everything is the same thing. After whom they have played a harlot. This shall be a statute forever for them through their generations. So what is it about? The traditional interpretation goes as follows. The Torah is the feeding mother, the milk of the Israelite people. Isaf, on the other hand, is the symbol of he who was giving up his calling of elder son, he sold his birthright, responsible for the spiritual heritage of Israel, he didn't want it, to introduce foreign and idolatrous elements in the holy doctrine. He then marries two Canaanite women, and his parents were very sad about it. In the Jewish tradition, Isaf is assimilated to Rome. So this is Midrash, a big Midrash. One of his descendants would have founded the city of Rome. And we are still in the fourth exile of Rome, which will end with the building of the third temple, because it was by the hands of the Romans that the temple was destroyed. So it's considered as an exile. From Esav or Edom came Amalek. We just talked about him in the previous videos. The sworn enemy of Israel who does his best to prevent Israel to come into the promised land. This Roman doctrine caused the separation of the so-called church from Israel, the replacement of the biblical calendar for a pagan calendar, the teaching to reject the Torah, making the Torah an old thing that we need to get free of, which is totally aberrant. Because God, when Mortab, didn't free a people to put him back to slavery with the law. No, he gave him the tool to be set free by the hands of the law and then to have his full achievement in Yeshua later. So Rome is responsible for the destruction of the Second Temple and the numerous persecutions of the Jews since 2,000 years. It is said in the Talmud, and this is echoing a prophecy in Revelation, that when the Messianic era will come, the Messiah will stand at the gates of a city of Rome on fire. So whatever, this is beyond the scope of our study. What we understand that there cannot be communion between pure and impure, like it is written in 2 Corinthians 6, 14, 18. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness, transgression of the Torah? Of what communion has light with darkness? And what accord has Messiah with Belial? And what part has a believer with an unbeliever? And what agreement has the temple of God with idols? For you are the temple of the living God. And God has said, and I will dwell in them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Therefore, come out from among them and be separate, said the Lord. Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you. I will be a father to you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, say the Lord Almighty. The apostles and Rav Shaul alludes to the commandments by announcing that any foreign idolatrous element coming from the doctrine of Esav is forbidden to be mixed with the pure milk of the Torah, because the Torah is giving us the discernment that we need to really separate between lie and truth, and lies and truth. Yeah. So before understanding the depth of the word and taking out of its solid food, one must receive first the pure milk of the Torah by meditating on its basic commandments that are here to teach us. Hebrews 5, 12, 14 tells, for though by this time you ought to be teachers, or doctors here, you need someone to teach you again the first principles of the oracles of God, and you have come to need meat and not solid food. For everyone who partakes only of milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But solid food, belongs to those who are full of age. That is, those who by reason of use of their senses exercise to discern both good and evil. Through the Torah and more study, we are able to discern between good and evil. If we are mixed up, how can we discern and see the truth around us? And today is more than ever, we need to see the pure truth. So let's go back to the pure Torah. On a deeper level, Kabbalah also teaches us that all physical substances represent spiritual forms of energy. Dairy products are associated with the attribute of chesed, which is mercy, kindness, mercy, love. And it's white. While meat reflects the attribute of gvura, because of the blood, it's red. It's strength or rigor. Both components are necessary, but in the order that Hashem created, because He knows the spiritual law He set up. The attribute of chesed, mercy, must always have the upper hand, but in the order that He planned. One cannot use mercy when one must use rigor, and vice versa. And in the case where both are used to create a balance, the milk, chesed, must always have the upper hand. So in the context of our teaching, the Christian mercy, the grace above everything, cannot be used exclusively without the rigor of the Torah in that case. And without mercy, the Torah loses its deeper and main message, because the Torah is mercy. So we must use both attributes, but in order and its proper place. This is the message that He wants to give us. Stay in my word, stay in the word that I came to give you on Mount Sinai. I gave you a word. And when Yeshua came, He taught the same word, didn't change anything. And He's just putting chesed before gvura. Those studies are very deep. This is a very, very deep topic. I cannot expound here. So I'm really encouraging you to come and study with us. Come, we have different classes, different courses. I'm sure you will be very, very blessed, and it will really transform your way of thinking. So thank you for listening, and have a blessed week. Shalom.